Okay, this is now tarot lesson number 142. And last time I talked about putting the questioner in the picture and giving them an idea about what the tarot is. It depends who you're dealing with. If it's a person who isn't familiar with the tarot, it can be a good idea to explain a little bit about what's going to happen during the reading. Because if the questioner has doubts or is a little bit apprehensive, then you can get them to relax by explaining what's going on with the tarot reading. It's not black magic. It's not anything dangerous. So if you take a few minutes to talk about the four suits, swords, batons, cups, and coins, and then talk about the court cards and then the major trumps, and give them a little bit of explanation of what is in the picture and how you would interpret it, depending on the question. So, and I also mentioned that it's a good idea if, as you talk and as you explain and describe, listen to what you're saying, because you're going to discover that you know more than you think you know. Or you'll notice things about a particular card or a combination of cards that you hadn't noticed before. And that makes you a better reader. Because one of these days it's going to come up again and you'll already know it. It's a bit like if you only know 5 words, then you're kind of limited in what you can say. But if you know 5,000 words, then you can be much more complete and sophisticated and explanatory in what you say to the questioner. So these kind of exercises are about you increasing your vocabulary or increasing the number of ideas that you've got about a particular card. So one thing I wanted to say, take the suit of swords. You're talking about the suit of swords, and so you talk about a sword's a weapon, so maybe you're attacking or defending. So think about times when you heard about or you were involved in a situation that was tricky. So the sword can be a weapon, but it's not about you being involved in a knife fight with somebody. But let's say somebody says something cruel or nasty or insulting to you. What are you going to do? Are you going to attack or are you going to defend yourself? And so the suit of swords can be or can indicate a time or a situation where maybe you hit back or hit out, or maybe you just suck it up and let it ride and don't bother responding. So the suit of swords can be about, are you going to respond or not to the things that people say and do? And so, whereas batons is different, and cups and coins and so on. So when you see a card, just talk about it, and you'll find that you automatically say useful and interesting things just because it's a tarot spread, and because the tarot is pictures, and we live in a visual world, and we're human, and the tarot was developed by people for people. It all sort of comes together, and you end up knowing what to say or saying the right thing. But remembering too that you're dealing with a questioner. So what a card shows or what it indicates is right for the questioner. It may be it may not be something you would do or you would think personally, or it maybe wouldn't be the way you would go about handling a situation, but you're the reader and not the questioner, unless you are the questioner and you're asking for yourself. So that's partly what I wanted to reiterate, is when you talk about the card, listen to what you're saying and you discover you know more than you think you do. The other thing is you could look at these 4 cards that you've chosen or that have come up and explain how you can begin anywhere. So here there's a desire to move away. It's good and there's reason to celebrate, but something isn't quite right because there's a wanderlust again, or you've got itchy feet and you want to move again, and then you end up maybe having to decide which of 2 paths you're going to travel, or you end up unsettled in the new position that you find yourself in. And that's going 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can start anywhere. You could start with here, with the 4 of Batons, indicating a pleasant time where people are happy and people are getting along with each other. But you, maybe the questioner, something wasn't enough, it wasn't good enough, it wasn't quite right. You wanted to move on to something better. And you weren't sure what to do because you get 2 pentacles, 2 possibilities, 2 plans, 2 ideas, and you're having to balance them or having to juggle. And you make a decision, and then the decision is to keep moving further away from the situation that began happily and began well. So you're beginning with this card, and you're showing the questioner how the sequence of cards that comes up can be interesting in itself and can show a development or how things are going to develop. Or maybe you begin with the 8 of Cups. So something isn't quite right. You feel the need to move on, right? It's you on your own, moving on. And then it's okay for a while. You've got to juggle different people, different situations, different ideas. But it works because you continue moving in a certain direction and you end up happy. So if the questioner is wondering, okay, I'd like to get a new job, or I would like to really move to another part of town, or get a new apartment, or live in a different part of the city where they're already living, it looks good because this can be them wanting to move, and then they could move to area A or area B, and they go to the one that's near water because there happens to be water in the picture, and they end up happy. Or maybe you begin here with the 2 of Pentacles, same idea. You're undecided about which way to go. The thing to do is move away. And maybe because we've got 3 people here, either rescue yourself by taking action, or you and your people, you and your family, or you and your friends, go with them and go to a new location where everybody's going to be happy, or where a number of people are going to be happy, because we've got the 4 of Batons afterwards, and it's going to work. And then it'll work for a while, but you're going to want to move again. So it can be that what you do is, by all means, move, but sign a short-term lease. Don't buy a house, or don't think that you're going to find a new place and you're going to take one step and everything is perfect. It's not going to be like that. You take one step here, things work out really well and you're happy, but you still feel the need to move on. Or, one last point before we look at the court cards, these cards can indicate different options that the person has at the time of asking the question. And so you wouldn't necessarily take all this time to explain this to the questioner, but for you studying on your own, or just wanting to become more familiar with cards, this kind of exercise would work. And so you look at each of these 4 cards as being an option that the questioner is faced with. So do they move on? And when I say they, I mean more than one people. So do you, the questioner, and your group or your family, do you all move on? And that can be what one of your options is. Do you stay where you are and make the most of it and find things to celebrate and things to enjoy? Or do you, on your own, take off? There's a difference between this card and this one, because here we've got one person moving and here we've got 3 people moving. And so this can be your option. Do you go with people that you know, or people you're already friendly with, and find a common place that you can all go to? Or do you just do what you want to do and go and look on your own for something that you would enjoy, or you think that you would enjoy? And with the 2 of Pentacles, do you think about it for a while? Can be two days, 2 weeks, 2 months, probably not 2 years, because 2 years is a long time to think about something. But maybe a couple of months it depends on the question and depends on who the questioner is. But maybe a couple of months would be the number, or the time period you would talk about here. So give yourself a couple of months to think through these different possibilities, and then you'll be in a better position to decide what direction you're going to go in. Or maybe depending on who it is, maybe 2 weeks is going to be enough time. So you could, for instance, take a card and get, what have I got here? That was it. To give us an idea about how long you should take to think about things. And again, the Ace of Pentacles upside down. It happens to be the same suit. What does that mean? Does it mean do it quickly, do it in 1 week? Or maybe what it means is decide on something and then do the opposite. I say that because there was a fellow called Paul Arden who wrote a book on advertising and marketing and so on. And he was really interesting. He was really experienced with marketing and advertising. And that was one of his rules. Whatever you think, do the opposite. And you end up, because people, we tend to want safety, or we want to not make a mistake. Even though you do something, it falls apart, but you learn a great deal from it and you become more capable because of it. So it was a mistake, but it wasn't really a mistake. And so the contrast between the Two of Pentacles here and the Ace upside down, and thinking about time periods, maybe give yourself a week and then choose. So then we've got court cards, Knight, Queen, Page and King. So you can talk about these being different types of people. Here you've got somebody young and energetic and ambitious and adventurous. Here you've got somebody older who's more stern and more severe. Here you've got somebody younger who's poetic and great imagination and maybe a little bit of a wimp as well, because, you know, they know what they need to do, but let me think about it a bit longer and contemplate. And the King of Pentacles, somebody older who knows his mind, who knows what he wants, he knows what direction he wants to go in. But you maybe mentioned that court cards can represent certain types of situations, certain types of atmosphere. So with the Knight of Batons, it can be a person, but it can also be, it's time to be adventurous. It's time to not necessarily take a risk, but time to go for what it is you really want. And being, when you're enthusiastic about something, go for it and see how it works rather than talk yourself out of it. And that can be the kind of atmosphere of the Knight of Batons. With the Queen of Swords, be cautious, be careful, look at the different elements in the situation, and then assess each of them individually. What are the strengths and weaknesses of this person or this situation? What are the strengths and weaknesses of this one? And so on. And then once you've got a lot of information, then you're in a position to choose which direction to go in, or which path to take, or which action to take. With the Page of Cups, that can be a situation where you're not being down to earth and practical and realistic like people tell you ought to be most of the time. But you're woolly and imaginative and poetic, and you want to express an inner thought or an inner truth or something like that. Maybe you write poetry, or you paint pictures, or you see what your imagination can tell you, or what direction you can go in following your imagination that other people may not get. And also because pages are young people, so you're in a situation, you're at the beginning of something, you don't know yet how it's going to turn out. And that's as it should be, because it's a page. Page upside down, then you're likely to do silly things. So rather than follow your dream, which will turn into a nightmare, don't be realistic and be practical for the time being. And then we've got the King of Pentacles. So you be the atmosphere of the King of Pentacles. It can be older, sensible people who've been through different experiences, who know what they're about, they know what they care about, they know what direction they want to go in. So the certainty and there's direction, and there's commitment with this particular card. And then, let me look at the time. Okay, I can't see too. I mean, the number on the program's too small. Okay, so then we've got the major trumps, and I think I'm not going to say much about them. So you actually, in the light of somebody called Kat emailed with a question about what deck to use, and so she replied. I said what I thought, which is the rider deck to begin with. And she replied she'd bought a deck that was designed by a psychologist and some kind of psychic, I think. And it was basically a psychological deck. So if you are into psychology, or you've got a psychological approach to living, that becomes awkward, because Freudians disagree with Jungians, who disagree with Adlerians, who disagree with I can't think of any other psychologists, but psychology isn't just one approach. You've got all these different subtleties and variations of the same idea, of the same title, which is psychology. So there's something about a book that gives you meanings of cards is all very well if you subscribe to the philosophy of the people who designed the deck. But the problem is, it depends on the question. If somebody wants to know, am I going to get a promotion, then the psychology card can give you good advice, but it may not relate in any way to getting a promotion. Whereas if you look at the rider deck, and if you look at the picture and get an idea of the kind of action or the kind of activity that belongs with this particular card, then it'll give you an entry point to understanding how to go about answering the question, or how the questioner should go about dealing with the situation they're wondering about. So with the Fool, maybe with the Fool, take a chance, take a risk, go for it. I was thinking earlier, the Fool in Shakespeare plays, the Fool was the only one who could speak honestly to the king. So the Fool could tell the truth. And the king may not like it. If somebody else told the king the truth, you're an idiot, for instance, the king would get annoyed. If the Fool says to the king, you're an idiot, the king's going to say, oh, well, okay, I know what you mean. In some ways, I can be an idiot. So there's something about the Fool is maybe being able to speak truth to power, or the Fool is about honest speech, maybe. And so how should I deal with the interview for the new job? And you get the Fool. Be honest. Tell the people what you actually want and what you're thinking, rather than try to tell them what they want to hear or what they expect to hear. And so with the Chariot, we've got, I think I tend to look at this card at the moment as it's what's more important is the driver, not the vehicle. So with the Chariot, what's your direction? What direction you want to go in? With the Temperance card, you've got blending and mixing, because you've got the angel and the energy going back and forth between the two cups. So the Temperance card is about blending and mixing and coming up with a composite idea or a composite picture. Could be collage, where you get different bits and pieces of colour or shape or art, and you put them all together to tell a particular kind of story. And then with the Empress, that's maybe just comfort and enjoyment, because she looks comfortable sitting out in the countryside and sitting on this bench or whatever it is, and it's nice countryside around. So maybe it's country living in its own way is the solution, or is the answer of the Empress card. Okay, so that's what I want you to do today with pick some cards and just talk about them and see what you come up with, and then listen to what you say and pay attention, because you will come up with ideas that you hadn't come up with before, or that you didn't even think that you knew. So that was it for today. One last quick shuffle in front of the camera so you can see. Okay, so that was it. Thanks for watching. And if you have comments or questions, leave them down below or email me directly and we'll take it from there. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.